Hi there, this is the Dark Queen. I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to my channel, Creepy Signal, bringing you all your nightmare material. Today I'd like to go ahead and kind of give a pre-warning on the content that I'll be talking about. It isn't about urban legends, and today I'm going to be actually talking about Tarrare, or Tarrare. And it's basically a Frenchman whom had an everlasting hunger that could never be satisfied. And if you don't really like content about bad things happening to animals or children, I would probably say maybe look through another Creepy Signal video, because this one is probably not for you. So the early years, Tarrare's early years, his family realized that, he could eat a lot more than the average boy, and times were tough, and so they unfortunately had to kick him out of the house because they knew that, based on the needs of his hunger, they really just couldn't provide for him. And so they kicked him out, and from there he found his way traveling among charlatan thieves and prostitutes, and he would kind of put up a sort of a sideshow act of him being able to eat like small stones and corks and tiny things like baskets of apples, to kind of entertain people. But he also, he was so hungry, he would also practically beg, for food, and he would, go, he had finally made it to Paris, where he was literally eating like garbage, just to basically sustain his appetite. And up to there, the war of the First Coalition had, all of that started to happen, and he joined the army. And the problem was, when he joined the army, they were very quick to find out that he was eating more than the standard, portions of everyday, rations that were given to the army. And so from there, he would, when they were marching, he would wander off into literally, the woods, searching for anything he could find to eat to nourish, this ever-growing appetite. And at one point in time, even the army didn't believe him when he would stray off. And so they put him to the test, and basically they were able to verify that he could eat the equivalent of 15 rations, 15 meals, within the army. And they started noticing things, that he was eating like live animals, like live cats, live dogs, live lizards, and he even swallowed an eel that was alive, whole. And so they started doing tests, they started checking biologically. He was, physically, he was a very skinny man. Many documented, and many in the army complained of his stench, and constantly, of him reeking of, this, they really didn't describe it very well, but he reeked of something. And he was very skinny, and he had a very frail face, and it seemed like, based biologically, his physique seemed very malnourished, even though they had verified, he could eat 15 portions. And he was eating, trash and, live animals in the forest. And still, his body was still reflecting that he was very malnourished. And that's when the army started taking advantage of him being able to swallow so many large things and live things, that they started putting him, giving him side objectives. And so basically, during the war, the French Revolutionary War, they basically had him deliver messages between, I guess it was camps, where he would swallow messages whole, and then basically, they would come out the other end, and they would basically, that would be, you know, his particular ability that the army had acknowledged him for in delivering these particular messages. And if intercepted, you know, it was inside him. So, and the doctors at that time, after, you know, after he had helped with the war, the doctors then decided to start trying to remedy this particular disease with vinegar, hard-boiled eggs, putting him on a special diet. Well, yeah, that didn't work. And, you know, aside from that, he was basically still going out into the forest and finding live kittens, live puppies, and swallowing them whole. And it went to the point where they had hospitalized him, and they started noticing when he was hospitalized that vials of blood were missing. And at one point they had already concluded that it was probably him, but it was when a toddler went missing, was when he was kicked out of the hospital. And so, yeah, even the doctors had stated that the likelihood was very high that, you know, that association of him and the missing child. And, you know, when you hear that this man can eat live animals, you know, that is just very disturbing. That if, you know, if he truly did eat a live child, that's just, to me, that's utterly horrifying. And 4 years later, he shows up to a different hospital in Versailles for tuberculosis. And basically, the hospital does everything they can, but he dies of diarrhea. And, you know, after that, they come to find that they did an autopsy on him to see if there was something, you know, different about his body, but there wasn't. You know, they found a gullet. His gullet was, you know, very large, and his gallbladder was a lot larger than the standard size of a gallbladder, but his stomach was just filled with ulcers. And you know, it probably was, you know, to me, I think there was probably more to that appetite than just it being, you know, a biological level. You know, there probably was some deviance associated with it. But, you know, to me that was very disturbing, hearing him being able to eat live animals and just swallow them. You know, who can do that? You know, just, I mean, to me, it was the hunger of a monster. To be able to drink blood and eventually eat a child. I mean, who eats live puppies, right? That's pretty sick. I mean, really? Come on. But yeah, I mean, he's a pretty evil dude. To me, this guy's pretty evil. I mean, on the evil meter, to be able to eat live puppies, kittens, children, I mean, really? That's pretty evil. And that's kind of like a monster, if you will. I mean, and not, I mean, just to do that consciously, that's just barbaric. And but yeah, that's an evil guy in history that I thought I'd talk about, because not many people talk about him. I don't know why, but, you know, I mean, to consume things like that and keep doing it, there's no heart, really. There's just an absence of emotion, an absence of empathy, an absence of sympathy. And, you know, it's a monster that just is always hungry.